Meeple Talk!
Hello everyone, I'm Adam.
And I'm Stephanie.
From Meeple Talk.
Right.
And we're here to review this game, Vanuatu.
Mm-hmm. From Quinny Games, a 2016 edition. And it's, what was the fellow's name? Yes, Alan Apron. So we saw this...
Oh, I don't know if he's from the Netherlands, but the people who make the game, Quinnet Games, are from the Netherlands, so from far away overseas, unless you are overseas, in which case, right in your hometown.
Hello, yeah. So this was one of the ones that we saw at Gen Con, and we picked it up, and we wanted to do a bit of a review, and that's what we're doing here for you today. So generally, it's a tourist kind of theme game, so we all are owners of our own little islands, or we try to be, and we want to encourage as many tourists to come and visit and stay and make us as prosperous as possible. And we do that by things like building our huts, or, buying and selling fish and drawing, wonderful sand art as well.
Diving for treasure.
Yeah, essentially to make the most beautiful resort possible. So it's a neat little game. It's an auction-based game. And I don't know, what would you say? Should we go dive right in?
Sure, let's dive. Ooh, I like it. Good analogy.
Exactly.
We'll just sail into this.
Yes.
Tack with the wind, so to speak.
All right, let's have a look.
Okay, so here you see the board of Vanuatu, and there's a lot of water here, and there's the coastline. That's pretty obvious, I think. So, as to all the different components in the game, first of all, you'll see these six-sided, some of them are water, some of them are islands, and you will play them all out in a typical game. Here is the turn track. It goes up to 8 for every game. And then we move up here, and you'll see here are some tiles that represent boats that are going to ship goods out. We have a track here that indicates your money in the game, which is Vatu, and that can be converted to victory points once you get 10, as you can see here. Here is the prosperity point marker that goes all the way around the board. So and when you get to 50, you get a 50 card, as you can imagine. We have the tourist area here for tourists. Here there's just various options that you can select as one of your actions, including first turn. First player for that round. Here we have the value of the fish in a fish basket with a fish counter. At the very top are the various actions that you can take in the game, and those are auctioned. On the side here, we can see the actual white tourists, which are also on the board. There are these sand drawings that you can use in the game as well and score prosperity points. Here are the treasure chests that you can also dive for treasure. And these are the card tokens that you get to represent your treasure. These are the fish tokens that represent your fish. And here we have the player tokens. You can see there's 5 different colors actually in the game. I forgot to mention the actual board. There are boats. Every player has a boat, and in order to take various actions, you have to be either in that water or near that island where the action takes place. You've got your fish counters where you can catch these fish, and these, you can't really see them from that angle, but these are little treasure chests. That's when you're diving for treasure. Those are the treasure you're diving for. And then we've got the player huts here, and players will be placing those and building those on the islands. And that's all. There's one other component I forgot. 2, actually. Well, this is the first player token. It represents who is the first player. And these are the various characters that you can play in the game. They give you various bonuses. So that's the board and the components.
And generally how turn order goes, or a round actually. This is all played out in a series of rounds. And so it always begins with placements of the new tiles. So you're always going to have 2 at your disposal. One of the island and one is the open ocean tile. Some of the open ocean tiles, as Adam showed, will have certain fish or treasures on them. Sometimes they're blank. And then the islands themselves, these are where you're going to be placing your huts, hopefully building or drawing some designs on there, collecting cargo and placing tourists. So, in the end, overall, our ultimate goal is we want to get all these prosperity points along the track, and there are a few ways to do so. So actions that earn, I guess I'll just go through the actions here. Everyone is going to be taking turns bidding on the type of action that they want to do. And every player has 5 bid values that you can use, represented by these pieces. And so we all go in a round, starting with the first player, and you're going to start placing 2 at a time. Whether you put them both on one or spread them among the different ones, that's up to you. Everyone places their first 2, and then you do another 2. Again, doubling up or spreading out if you want, and then finally placing the third. As we have people who've placed their different actions if they wanted to, what will happen is that the actual actions taken are going to be, the actual actions available to you is going to be decided by who holds majority. So, for example, this particular action, which is building your hut, it's going to go to green. They've bid the most for that particular action, so they are going to go first. Once they take that action and remove their tokens, well, then it can be by the next available or highest bidder will be able to take that action. If we have a tie, well, that's where first person token is going to become important, because you'll get to take that action first always in the event of a tie on a particular move that you want to do. So as we go around, let's pretend we've already done our bids. I'm going to explain some of these moves here that you may want to do. So I'm going to start, I guess I'll go this way. As I said, we want to gain these prosperity points. One of the ways you do that is if you earn money. As we earn money around the Vanuatu and collect it in the bank, every 10 Vanuatu is automatically going to convert into 5 prosperity points. The other way that you convert money is going to be through shipping of goods. You can buy goods of various colors and load them on these ships here. Once they are full, they will then be sent off. And so you'll get prosperity points upon initial purchase, and also if you happen to be the last person to place the good that fills the ship, you'll get a bonus of 2 as well. So that's what this particular movement does. We've got diving for treasure, so all these ocean points that have treasure on them, you're going to collect. Obviously, if you get to the highest value or highest units of treasure, you're going to get the highest token value. This is going to convert also to prosperity points at double the rate of what is shown on the face. Woo! I'm destroying the board. Another action. Well, to get places, you need to sail. So you're going to have your sailing, your movement. It's going to cost you to move, usually a maximum of 3 spots, one Vanuatu per space you're going to move. You will also want to build your huts. We've got, this one here is what we call the rest. That's what these tokens are going to represent. You can either choose to just get a mere bonus of prosperity and money, 1 of each perhaps, or take your first turn token. So when you collect this, that means for the next round, you are always going to be the first player advantage on that one. Here we've got tourists. As Adam was mentioning, we've got these tourists that you're going to be placing around the board. They're helpful in creating a very popular resort, because that's going to earn you the prosperity points. The more tourists that are on your island where you have huts, the more you have, it multiplies for more prosperity points, and that's what you really, really want to do in the end. And then you've got your fishing. Again, you're going to be traveling around, and just like the treasure, you're going to be doing some fishing. So first you have an action for the fishing component itself, and then the actual sail. And that's how you earn more money to be able to do more actions, because really the money is the movement mechanism, and then finally that can get converted to prosperity points in the end if you have extra. And then, if you are idle, just kind of want to noodle about on the island, you can also draw. And so the artist will be able to, just using these little turtle tokens, do these sand drawings. Again, the more beautiful your resort is going to be, the more prosperity points you're going to get as well. So we all bid for various actions that we may want to do. And then, as Adam was mentioning, these character cards, each one will have a certain advantage, either getting an easier cost to do the action that you want to do, or give you a certain extra bonus for performing a certain function. So every person is going to be choosing a different character every single round. And so play goes around, and we keep doing these actions in order until all the 8 rounds are up. And then simply, it's just a matter of adding. Whoever's got the furthest progress along the prosperity track is going to be the winner.
So there's the game.
Yep.
So now we're going to tell you what we thought about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it's a very, very themey game. We like things like that where it's just, the artwork works with it. The colors and pieces are awesome. It's just a really good job with the design and setup. And I like, it is a traditional hex-based layout, but of course, stylistically they make it very ocean-like, very fluid.
Curvy and watery.
Yeah, they make it very fluid in their design. So, I mean, when it comes to getting the color scheme, the theme right, it looks like those kinds of touristy feel for the palette. And so I think it's really well done with respect to that. So now, one thing which we didn't really mention is that it is an auction-based game, but at the same time, even though you have a choice of the types of actions that you want to take, action order is really, really important in this game. And I think that's where, if it looks on the surface like just a light casual game where you just play some pieces, go somewhere, pick some, do some things, hey, casual time, fun. That's how this game really ups the level of competitiveness. And not necessarily that it's a sabotage kind of game, but you really have to be careful with those bids because especially when you have actions that depend upon other actions happening first, you will often, or sometimes if you're kind of playing unfriendly, you will find times where someone else's bid order is going to really set the tone if you are actually going to take any actions at all.
Yeah. So what will often happen is that, let's say you're second last or last in the bid order. You may have 2 or 3 actions and one depends on the next. For example, I'll move over here to where these fish are and then I'll catch the fish and then I'll sell the fish and then next turn I'll actually have some money because right now I have no money. And then maybe 3 or 4 players will all bid on the move action and once everyone, and maybe not everyone will play, and the person who's sitting there is outbidding you, and you have to take an action on every turn.
Yes.
And if you don't outweigh anyone in any spot, then you have to remove one of your actions from the board. So it's vicious that way, and what could happen is you may find that, now I can't move, or I can't play what I want to play in the right order.
Right.
So then you may end up saying, now I have to fish, but I can't fish because there's no fish near me. And then later, now I can move, but I wish I could have moved at the beginning, but now I can't move in the beginning.
Yeah, and also about the being able to bid, not only do you have to take an action at some point, but you are forced to take the action where you do have the majority first before any actions where you don't. So what if your fishing action is the lower in the bid order, but your selling is where you do outbid? You are forced to sell nothing before you can actually end up fishing. So that's a tricky one too, because you could be set up for some instances where in a given round, and I've experienced this myself, where even before the whole thing plays out, I look at it, I'm like, you know what? I'm losing out on this round. I am missing. There's going to be actions that are going to be wasted. And that's the kind of disappointing part where you're just like,
yeah.
But if it works out, it's pretty sweet, right? So it can be a stressful game.
Yes. So
be prepared for that.
And that's what happened to me in terms of, when we bought it and first looked at it, I thought this game looks amazing. And then there was like a 5-minute description because we actually saw this at Gen Con. So, and I was like, wow, this game looks fantastic. But in my mind, I was thinking, this is kind of a relaxing, shoulder game. Everyone can have fun. But this bidding is very, dog eat dog, essentially.
Yes.
Because it's not just a matter of, you're denying someone something, but you may be screwing up their entire turn. There's only 8 rounds, right? It doesn't just keep going and going until someone reaches a certain threshold. There's only 8 rounds. It sometimes feels a little short, this game. And the other thing I want to bring out in terms of the gameplay that I feel like I haven't really emphasized the things that I really do like first, which I prefer to do. But I guess I'll continue on this strain. The other thing is that this game is very unforgiving. If you screw up in the beginning, halfway, 2/3 the way through the game, you can basically call it. you know you're not going to win. You're guaranteed not to win because other people have so many more points, with the huts and the tourists, because the huts and tourists multiply each other.
Yep.
And you can see how many points are there at the end of the game, and you can basically see where everyone is. So it's easy to see where people are at any point in the game. But it's really easy to make very important mistakes. For example, if you're fishing and then you want to sell those fish, oh, I don't have a hut, or I'm not near the island where my hut is.
Yep.
Or,
Oh, I know. I was going to give an example of one that I made big time too, where I ventured too far with my ship. So when my area was exhausted, this is a game of extreme limits. Like, it caps you severely on number of actions you can take or how far you can take them. So even though I had enough Vanuatu to make it all the way across the board, the fisherman or the act of traveling limits you to 3 moves. So as the game was progressing on the other side of the board, I just physically could not make it until another round again. Mm-hmm. So you have to really work with very tight constraints. And so that's where your planning is going to become really, really important.
Yeah. So I guess what I want to say about this is I think it's a really tightly designed game. Like, reading through the rules and playing, there was no hiccups, no bottlenecks, nothing there. It's a really beautiful game, but you have to realize that it's definitely a gamer's game. This is not a game where, someone who's never played board games before, you can introduce them. This is not a gateway game. This is not a light strategy game.
It's going to be challenging.
And it is an auction game in the sense of, kind of a vicious kind of game. Maybe that's too harsh a word. I mean, I guess every auction game is like that, where you're denying someone something while you're getting something, and you're trying to outbid them. But this game combines the auction with
there's a lot of levels of constraints built into
with a lot of dependency, right?
Yep.
So you have to do things in the right order, or you've really messed up in a turn or 2 turns, right? Because, you can mess yourself up in 1 turn, and then in the next turn, oh, now I have no money. Now I don't have a way to get money. Now I have to, like, for example, build a hut or go over to this area and get fish and then sell those fish before I can even make money so that I can even do my next action. And that's the kind of game it is. So I can definitely see, a target market for this, so to speak. I think there's definitely players like maybe some of you out there who really like these medium weight to heavy strategy games. It feels, in terms of the way the game plays, it feels like a heavy game. And I feel that, in general, a heavy strategy game is a game that is unforgiving. And if you do make crucial mistakes, you are screwed. And that's the appeal of heavy games. But it sets up and plays like a medium strategy game, so it kind of fools you. So keep that in mind as well. But I will say that as it is, for what it is, I think it's a very well designed game. I'm just not sure if I prefer to play a game where you can really mess players up and then, come away thinking, hey, we're still okay. You kind of feel like, your nerves have been a little bit rattled after playing this game.
I needed a drink after.
Yes. So,
but that's the thing. That's the thing to keep in mind. And so when you talk about certain games and flavors that you like, it is very good for a very, very, very good subset. But it's not an easy to pick up and play game with a broad range of players. So just keep that in mind. But for what it does that well.
Yeah. One last thing before we go, I just wanted to mention that give this game a chance. Play it 2 or 3 times, because the first time you play it, a lot of those things that catch you will catch you, and then you'll be like, this game, is a mess. And then when you play it the second time, when you're looking out for things, and you say, I really need to get this in order to get that, and you understand the order of things, it becomes a lot more interesting. A lot more interesting. So, if you do decide to go with it and give it a few plays, and then, and reserve judgment. To give it a good chance, because it is a well-designed game. So that's our review.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks. Come check us out again.
See you later.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.